In this video, we'll show you how to work with arrays in Directual while using scenarios. First of all, we'll look at the differences between Directual and JavaScript arrays. And we'll see how to add and remove elements from arrays, as well as how to use the Lodash library and, of course, templating too. It's important to remember that in Directual, an array is a string with elements separated by commas. It's essential to use the join method with comma-separated elements to convert a standard JavaScript array into a Directual array, and the split method with comma-separated elements to convert a Directual array back into JavaScript. So how does all that work in practice? Here we have the author object with a books field, which contains an array of links, book IDs separated by commas. Now let's create a new scenario and add the edit object step. We save an element from the array in a new array link field. There it is. Now let's take the first element in the array. Select the books field and put quotes around it, because we're going to use JavaScript. Don't forget to use the split method with comma-separated elements and enable JavaScript handling. Now add 0 in square brackets, because we want to take the first element, and object numbering in JavaScript always starts with a 0. Now use the check expression function and the step testing menu to see that everything works as intended. Great! We selected the first element. If we want to select the second element, we need the number 1 in square brackets. Again, everything worked as intended. We selected the second element. Let's see how the join method works, with the elements separated by commas. Just to recap, we use the split method to convert a Directual array into a JavaScript array, and the join method to convert a JavaScript array back into Directual. As you see, everything worked well. Now we have 2 elements in the new array link field. We've covered the differences between Directual and JavaScript arrays, so now let's see how to add and remove elements from an array. Create a new scenario and add the edit object step. We'll save an element from the array in the new array link field again. There's the field in which we'll store the result. And there's the field that we're going to add to the existing array. Now add $d.concat. That's an internal Directual function, and then 2 arrays, which basically means 2 strings. The dconcat and dsplice functions work specifically with arrays in Directual format. That's with strings where the elements are separated by commas. That's why we use quotes around the arrays. Check the expression by copying the object ID. Now check the result. Everything looks right. We have 4 elements in our array. Next, we verify that this function will add an element without duplicating it. We've copied the ID, which is the first element from the books array. Now add it as a constant. And check to see whether or not there are 2 identical elements in the array. As you see, we only have 2 elements because we added the first element to the other 2 elements. You'll find a link to the documentation in the Edit Object step. You'll find every available method for working with objects, along with practical examples, including the dconcat and dsplice functions. Now let's see how to remove elements from an array using the dsplice method, which has 2 arguments. The first is the Directual array from which we want to remove the element. The second argument is the Directual array containing the element that we want to remove. In this example, You can see that the array hasn't changed because it doesn't contain any elements from the second array. So now let's copy the first element, the ID of the first object, and remove it from the array. The expression is now explicit. Let's check it again. The result is correct. We still have an array with just one element. We now understand the basics of adding and removing elements from arrays. Let's turn to the Lodash library. And it's particularly useful because it lets you carry out complex array manipulations. It has detailed documentation and shows all the methods available in Directual scenarios. For example, let's say we want to intersect two arrays. That is, the result will contain only elements that are common to both arrays. Once again, we save the result in the Array Link field using the Edit Object step. Don't forget to enable JavaScript handling. You can use the Ctrl-J hotkey to do that. Next, to call Lodash, add an underscore with a dot and select the desired method. In our case, this method is called intersection. This method will work with two JavaScript arrays. So we take the Directual arrays and apply the split method. The result of that function is a JavaScript array. So to store it as a Directual array, we need to use the join method. Check the result and everything is correct. Those two items are the intersection of two arrays. The other Lodash functions work the same way. You'll find them in the documentation, and there are a lot. The last thing we're going to explore in this lesson is how to work with arrays in terms of templating without using JavaScript. In the Templating tool, add a £sign and the array's name. Then we have opening and closing tags. They allow us to access the fields in the object that this array refers to. If we're working with an array link, they allow us to access the fields in the object that this array refers to if we're working with an array link. If so, we have the parent object, the author. We also refer to the books array, and we list the title and the author's first and last names. Great! We have a list of books. That's it for arrays. In the next lesson, we look at how to work with dates. Stay with us for that.